When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! I'm SeptumSin, and you're watching SeptumSin versus the world. I'm here with Kodawuki Jake.
Hi.
And, well, we're right back here again for that easy listening, feel-good program that we call the Vlogcast. So just sit back, toast your toes by the fire, then call the fire department because that house probably shouldn't be burning like that. And we can just move on.
When it's 90 plus degrees outside, you should not have a fire going in the fireplace.
Oh, fireplace. I was just talking about setting the house on fire.
Oh, well that's different then.
Or in my case, setting the lawnmower on fire. But any excuse to toast marshmallows, roast hot dogs, and make s'mores, that's what you do during summer. You set your nearest appliance on fire, and then you cook whatever you got. Sing songs, kumbaya, you know, those types of things. So, what you been watching, reading, and whatnot this time through?
Well, pretty fair bit. So you said we want to work on the watching first?
Yeah, we'll just do whatever we're in the process of completing.
Right. Well, I am in a process of... I have finally gotten through Season 1 of CSI, and I've moved on to Season 2, so I'm still working through CSI. Definitely enjoyable series. I'm definitely enjoying it. And there have been some smatterings here and there, various shows with, been watching a little more Friends. I've seen a lot of random episodes of Key and Peele. I'm not really watching it, but I've seen a lot of it. Like with most sketch comedy, it's kind of all over the place, but some of the sketches are brilliant, you know. So we saw one at a pawn shop that I thought was pretty good.
Oh, wow.
But as far as what I've started, I actually started 3 new series this week, and I'm sitting on go for a 4th. But the ones I've started, I returned after a lengthy hiatus to 30 Rock. I launched into Season 4 of 30 Rock, and definitely have enjoyed some of that. And I've started 2 new anime, and if you just watched our pickups video, we talked at length about his desire to do an NIS video somewhere in the distant future, and we're trying to get prepped for it. And I have been fairly lazy about watching my NIS programs, so I launched into one called Ground Control to Psychoelectric Girl, which is a pretty fun series. It is indisputably a Shaft production. It has all the hallmarks of Shaft. Weird series, lots of CG, strange camera angles.
No, shut your mouth.
And I'm going to be honest, the aunt bothers me. But mostly it's a fun show about a girl who believes she's an alien, her cousin who wants to disabuse her of that notion, and all the random people they know. And I've continued on with my Sentai Premium series, and I've launched into Amagi Brilliant Park, which is a very fun series so far. Yeah. The main guy is a very truculent, very narcissistic character. You see narcissists like this who are villains. It's very rare that you see a protagonist who's this much in love with himself. And the series opens with a very hot girl holding a musket to his head and saying, "I want you to go on a date with me."
Oh, well.
And he, of course, doesn't want to do it because...
That's the way to ask.
You know. And then she drags him to a broken down, run down park, Amagi Brilliant Park, and goes on a tour. The first episode is like a travel guide, and it's hilarious because they perfectly spoof the travelogues. But she has as much enthusiasm as you would expect from Ben Stein in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Anyone. But it's a fun show, and I'm enjoying both of those a lot. And should I go ahead and I guess and do my current rating?
Yeah, whatever you're okay. In the process of.
Well, and in the process of reading, this week I've read multiple, or in the last 2 weeks since we met last, I've read multiple issues of Flash, some Green Arrows, and Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. And I've started reading Zadie Smith's White Teeth, which so far is a pretty darn good book. More on that in a little bit. But first we'll do what's your ongoing stuff.
Okay, so I don't have a lot that I've been reading, but I'll start with that. What's that one? 32, 33? Okay, so I finished Skip Beat volumes 31 through 33.
All right.
So I'm still working on it. There are 40 volumes with the 41st coming out. And I am slowly but surely working my way through. I've been kind of powering my way through because I made a deal to get a bulk collection of Knights of the Dinner Table on PDF, so I can read it from the beginning to the current. And I'm not going to start that with this series hanging over my head. That just ain't right. So I'm going to finish that first. And so I'm just hunkering down. Some of it is really quick read, and when I started earlier on, it was just like zoom. But I don't know what it is about this recent storyline about the main. Not the main character. About the just recently, it's been slower for me. About when they're trying to play brother and sister.
Yeah.
And all of this, and there's some entertaining moments, but I feel like it's been bogged down in a little bit of the drama.
Kyoko is the eccentric sister of eccentric method actor Kane Heel, who's actually ran in disguise. And it's interesting.
I like the series. I really love the series early on, but it's starting to feel to me at this point like, okay, this is going on a lot longer than I wanted it to. But we will see. I will keep going and moving through it. As far as watching, I've been continuing My Hero Academia. I know you've been reading the manga occasionally. I've gotten to the point where they are at they're working on their heroes licenses and are preliminary licenses or something like that. And it's a fun storyline. I like it better than the previous storyline where they were doing the training camp, because that one moved slower for me. I don't quite have the excitement level I had for My Hero Academia when I was starting with it. But it does not mean that I am too behind it. Now, I am not looking for new episodes all the time like I am with Food Wars, which I'm like, come on, season 4. Come on, season 4. I want to know. Continuing to watch Reborn. Now I'm getting into the heavy shonen arc, because Reborn starts off as mainly a comedic show that goes nearly nowhere, with a little bit of shonen stuff in there. And then once you hit a certain arc, which is the Varia arc, really, it just gets heavy shonen. And we're just starting into that. I'm just starting into getting into that arc now. I'm working into the last series of Upstairs Downstairs, and I'll talk a little bit more about Upstairs Downstairs when we're talking about what we finished, because I did finish a series, and I consider almost each of those series a story unto itself. I had read the first 3. I mean, I had not read. I've seen the first 3 a while back, and then the last 2 seasons or series were very badly scratched, so I had to get them, and then I had been off of them for so long I just never came back. But I've been watching on that. That's the reason why I can't get right on to Katana Gatari, because, And then, There are games that I've been working on. I've been playing a little bit of Tekken versus Street Fighter, or is actually Street Fighter versus Tekken. They were supposed to be a 2-game thing, to where it was one game that was a crossover between them in the Street Fighter 4 style, and then the other one was supposed to be in the Tekken style. But it was a heavy DLC-soaked mess. I got it really cheap for like $1.50, and then got the rest of the DLC for $25. And I like it because the PlayStation had a lot of joke characters, like Mega Man. But we're not talking Mega Man like how you would look at it. Mega Man from the terrible box art of the original 2 games. And it's just simply hilarious. It is a very solid fighter, very good mechanics. I'm kind of sad that they decided to go with a lot of microtransactions. I do think if it wasn't so laced with that heavy mess, it would have been a much better game. And then finally, I'm starting a project, and that's going to be the roundup. We're going to end it with this project, which is Project Silent Hill. For Halloween this year, I decided I'm going to try and go through the entire Silent Hill game series. I've actually beaten all but 4 of the games, 3 of which I will try in this playthrough series, but I'm also starting from the beginning and moving through. So we're going to do that as a cut at the end of this. But I am working on Silent Hill 1, almost have it beat, and we'll talk about my playthrough on that at the end. So now we'll just go back and forth a little bit, do a little bit of variety, not just one of us like me droning on like this, and talk about what we've actually finished. So we can do whatever, red, game, whatever, but stuff that we've completed.
Okay.
So since I've been talking for a moment, why don't you throw up with one that...
Okay, so the one that, other than the CSI, the other program, the other show that I completed since we last got together for this little discussion was the series Akame ga Kill. And I had talked about it before. The show does get a little... Some of the points that they hammer home, they start using sledgehammers toward the end. The show really, really, really plays a lot with the thoughts of what really is murder, what really is evil. It's a fascinating series because the characters, the good guys aren't all good and the bad guys aren't all bad, Esdeath is evil by any measure, but you still like her. It's weird. The show has phenomenal production values, but there is one thing that I have to say. Boo on you, Sentai. Boo on you. The limited, the second volume comes with 3 soundtrack discs. And not a single damn one of the theme songs is on any of the soundtracks.
Oh, so this is just like what happened with
and it sucks. It sucks because they're awesome themes. All 4 of the themes are really, really good themes. None of them are on the soundtrack. That's the whole point of a soundtrack. No, the music is good, but still. So it's a good show. It's worth watching, and I'm glad I got it done. I'm enjoying my Sentai run through. I think I have a lot more to enjoy. I was disappointed about this soundtrack.
So the one I want to talk about, and I want us both actually talk about this one because we both saw it at the same time.
Return of the Living Dead Part 2?
Well, we can definitely start with... Actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we do Return of the Living Dead Part 2 and then the one we saw in theaters together as a sort of a joint venture. So we'll start with Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
I think we covered that on Inside Movies Galore.
So check that out. Last week we did that, and this week we're doing Return of the Living Dead Part 3, and I will talk a little bit about that later. But what did you? I mean, just out of curiosity, what were your personal thoughts of Return of the Living Dead Part 2?
Like I said, I think I mostly covered it. I thought it was moderately enjoyable. It was definitely not a classic. I actually did like the first one better.
First one was more of a punk atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, the first one, and we did talk about this, it's well documented that apparently very few people involved with the sequel wanted to be involved with the sequel. So it shows.
Including the director.
It shows. The first movie, you can tell they were much more invested in it.
Oh, yeah.
But it was still pretty interesting.
To me, I thought the first movie kind of reminded me of a trauma film.
Yeah.
And then the second film kind of reminded me more of a film like House. Not the Japanese House, but the one with Norm and Cliff would be the second one. The Cheers style houses. But, I mean, I don't know if you got that same feel from it. That's the way it kind of felt like it was one of those in that style. I think House did it better.
Like Goosebumps or something.
But still, not bad. It was decent. It was watchable.
Yeah.
The other one that we both watched together was a film in theaters that when I saw it coming up, and I'm sure you thought the same thing, and at the end of Fireworks, it was like,
I'm going to this.
Yeah, this one seemed to be much more of my interest than Fireworks, and I'll let you introduce that since it's technically your turn.
Okay, we went to see, and I wanted to have the Japanese title ready to go, and I didn't, and I'm slacking, so whatever. But this was a show by Masaki Yuasa called Night is Short, Walk On Girl, and it's based on a book with the same title. I can't remember the author's name, and I feel bad about that. But the same pairing, the same director, and the same author did a series about 8 years ago that has never been released here called Tatami Galaxy. And
it's being streamed, though.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, to my mind, it's never been released here. Okay, here we go. Yoru wa Mijikashi Aruke yo Otome. Which, actually, you do hear that phrase uttered at one point during the movie. But, it's the Tomihiko Morini. That's the author. But there's a good, it's different. It's very different. Visually, it's very, well, yes, but if it makes sense to say it's very cartoony in an artistic fashion, it's very colorful. Very colorful movie. There are parts that are just like visually astonishing, and there are parts where it's visually you're like, huh.
It kind of reminded me of a combination of two styles, like 20s Disney and Zetsubo Sensei.
Yeah.
It's like those two styles mashed together.
I don't know about 20s Disney, but like...
I'm thinking like old school cartoons.
Like
you know,
30... Yeah, 20, 30.
Like the early Disney as well.
Early Disney, yes. Early, and like you said, Zetsubo Sensei, that kind of visual aesthetic is there a little bit. This apparently is also the same director who did Devilman Crybaby, one of the more infamous series of the last few years.
Yeah, people love it or hate it.
Yeah.
It's been kind of one of those...
But Night is Short, Walk On Girl, it has phenomenal music. I love the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
And it was... it really is... It's a simple conceit. The original novel was split into 4 seasons, and they kind of kept the season theme, but they had it all as taking place in one very long evening. Despite the title. And the basic gist of it is you got this dude who's known as Senpai, and this girl who's known as Otome. And she they are at a wedding, and after the wedding, he wants to bump into her yet again. You know, they get ever so close to winning her heart by constantly running into her.
Coincidence.
Coincidence. No, yes. No, what was that little song and dance they did? Like, what a coincidence? No, it was Chance or something like that.
Yeah, by chance.
By chance, yeah. And she, for her part, is totally oblivious to his affection, of course. And she just wants to go out and have fun.
Yeah.
They're in college, and this is her opportunity to really learn what it's like to the adult world. And she is basically the tour guide through one wild and crazy night. Let's put it that way.
Oh.
And meanwhile, he keeps popping up every now and then. And the movie does, I don't want to go into specifics because I don't want to ruin it for you, but I love the ending. I thought it came together really nicely. It was a good movie, and I say again, I think it has a shot at an Oscar nod.
I think so.
Very rare that anime does, because they hate anime for some reason. But
Unless it's Miyazaki.
well, yeah.
I actually feel like they were forced to take Miyazaki in, and then they just said, okay, well,
Yeah.
we ain't taking any more of you anime people.
Yeah.
But me, I liked the movie overall, though the last chapter bothered me for some reason. It was just so intentionally grating.
They got in, that last bit got really... there was a lot of noise toward the end, and
when I was starting to feel like, is it over yet? And that to me was the feeling I was getting towards the end. And I don't like having that feeling at any movie. I really love the first 3 chapters. I thoroughly enjoyed it, especially the first 2. Those first 2 were just freaking amazing. But I mean, I just liked having her nice, light, whimsical nature, and then him following around frantically behind. And a lot of the metaphors, like there's one metaphor, and I'm not going to spoil a lot, but like where she's got her watch and it's running just as like a normal time, but these older people, they've got their watches and it's running much faster, showing, of course, how time seems to go faster the older you get.
yeah, actually, I think they had like a whole comparison,
Yes.
right? Like yeah, it was really cool. And some of the supporting cast were really cool too, and that was part of it. You know, they early on, she hooks up at a bar with this 2 people, this woman who's like just your typical, slightly older, drinks a lot, kind of crazy older sister type, and then the weird guy with the huge chin who's very philosophical and proudly states that he has no money and all this kind of and they kind of, the 2 of them kind of weave in and out of the story for the rest of the movie as well. And a lot of the people, like right before that, she meets this other guy at the bar who's very boozy and is shamelessly hitting on her, and you come to find out soon that he had some connections to the wedding party. I did like how that first scene in the wedding party is basically the only scene where the husband is conscious. And the rest of the movie, she's dragging him around.
Well, see, I missed the first scene because I was sent to get butter on the popcorn.
Well, you saw it at the end of Fireworks.
Yeah,
that was it.
So they did actually show the whole. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't miss that much because of that.
Right. But you know what I mean, like, right? Like they were already 3 sheets to the wind at the. But the
she could put it away.
She could put the wife, but definitely the
main character.
She could put it away. Yeah.
That was the whole first chapter for drinking as much as freaking possible.
I bet your wife was a little bit envious. But at any rate, yeah. So that was a fun one. That was well worth seeing, and
so.
Yeah.
That covers where I think we had parallels this time. So for me, I finished Upstairs Downstairs Series 4. I wanted to talk about that because upstairs, downstairs, many of you are probably familiar with Downton Abbey. Most people are, oddly enough. You know, there is people all over the place. I mean, Snoop Dogg likes Downton. It's that whole household where you've got the upstairs and the downstairs. The upstairs being your kind of nobility or your upper class, wealthy people, and your downstairs being the servants in their class. And how their different lives interact and how they go on separately. To me, the downstairs group is much more interesting than the stuffy upstairs. But Series 4 was very interesting for this, and this series is about a well-to-do family, not as well-to-do as the Downton family. They're more in like a townhouse, like a really wealthy, nice townhouse. And it's not as large a staff. It's not all of that, but you still have the interactions thereof. And in this one, they covered World War One and the various feelings and politics and how attitudes changed as the war went on. How the newspapers would publish propaganda in order to make sure to demonize the enemy, how to work towards how to make people think the war is going much better than it was. The fact that these people, like the son of the rich family and one of the servants, both went to war. Of course, the son of the rich family, he was an officer because he was wealthy. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And he was already in the military, and he was all about how the British were beforehand. That was that we're going to conquer in the name of the empire, which is what you did. I mean, in Blackadder Goes Forth, actually, he was talking about, yes, I enjoyed, running some natives through and colonizing. But then he goes in and he can't wait to be on the front because he wants the glory. He doesn't want people stealing the glory. But then when he comes back, you can tell what a shell of a person he has become. How one of the servants has to deal with PTSD as he is coming back from the war. And just the reality and how World War One changed outlooks about the class system, because everybody at that point was on the same level when it came to the fighting. And that it really did open doors, and it was an excellent piece. If you can watch any of the series of this, I would recommend Series 4. Do a quick look up about the family. I mean, there was other stuff like suffragette stuff at the beginning of the series, because it starts at like I think the early 1900s, a little bit before Downton. Downton started after the sinking of the Titanic. This started before that, and then it goes up to 1930, which basically the last season goes from the end of World War I to 1930. But again, loved it. I thought it was a great series.
So it covers a lot more ground. Like the Downton ones, each one covers what, like a year basically.
And it depends on the series for upstairs, downstairs.
For the most part, yeah. So and definitely we watched a little bit of it. I think when you first cracked it open, I think I saw 2-3 episodes.
Good
I
series.
need to see more of it. I will admit, I found Downton more generally appealing on the first viewing.
Yeah.
But I feel like this would be one that would be, and of course, without upstairs, downstairs, there probably would be not only no Downton, but actually Downton's writer, Julian Fellows, also did the excellent Robert Altman film Gosford Park.
Oh, yeah.
And that also draws a very heavy a bit from upstairs, downstairs. And,
I agree,
yeah. So, you got some more, or you want me to do some
go
more?
ahead. We'll do back and forth.
Okay. Well, I got to revisit a favorite film this week. But because our damn player is being stupid, I could not watch Captain America Civil War. And I have now 2 movies sitting there where I was unable to watch the Blu-ray because I had to settle for the DVD. But by watching the DVD, I was able to rewatch Thor Ragnarok. It is an awesome movie. It is an awesome movie, and it is always a joy to watch. And I have an excuse to watch it again, because I will have to still watch the Blu-ray. I hate to say it, but to me, when I have a Blu-ray DVD combo, I don't give a damn if I watch the DVD. I actually prefer that it's one or the other, so I don't have a wasted disc. But this is one of the reasons why every now and then it is useful to have.
Yeah. Is this the one that has the remote that doesn't work so well?
I think it may be, or it may, but it's obviously the player itself if it won't even read a Blu-ray.
So, and you say you've got a player that's sitting in storage, right?
Yeah, I need to get it out soon.
Huh, more motivation, right?
Well, it's coming. It's coming.
I watched a Netflix series and completed it. Unless there's a season 2, then it won't be complete anymore. But I started a series called Dark Tourist, which is really fun. I was really enjoying it. I debated whether to say it was complete or not, because I theoretically have gone through most of it, but I keep falling asleep during parts of the episodes. But Dark Tourism is going to these places like war zones, places where you're kind of trailblazing into new places. And seeing things that most people have not seen, or going to things like serial killer walkthroughs and stuff like that. And it really was a very interesting series. There was one of the episodes that I thought was really interesting, for instance, was when he goes to Turkmenistan. Now, Turkmenistan is not a place you typically associate with tourism.
Nope.
But they really want tourists. They actually built this place around their parliament with all this touristy stuff and these huge roads, hoping to get tons of tourists, and they got nobody. Like these roads, they could just walk across the roads. There are a lot of similarities between how they all have tourism there versus, say, North Korea, where you've got a minder. They're a little bit more relaxed than the North Korean ones. And they were doing some sort of sports games over there, but they built all of these buildings out of white marble. Like all the hotels, all the buildings, just all of it, this beautiful white marble where all the citizens are probably suffering. But it is amazing to see some of these type of things. And it's a comedian that's doing the main tour of it. There's one that was a Nazi museum. One of the last ones was a Manson family. The guy who inherited, who was the heir of the Manson family. I can't remember his name, but when Charles Manson died, he actually died during their filming of that episode. So they ended up somehow managing to secure an interview with the person who was an actual friend to Charles Manson. He had to have been a friend because Charles Manson left everything to him. So that's just kind of cool in that way.
Okay. All right. I got to see 2 new movies. I'm thinking I'm remembered everything that I saw the last 2 weeks. I could be wrong, but I know I saw 2 movies that were new to me. And if you watched our video last week, you know that I mentioned one of them. I did finally get to watch Super Troopers. So that was a big cult classic out of the way. And I checked today, I'm like 3rd in line to get the second one from the library. So I'll be seeing that very soon, and I'm excited. But the other one that I had never seen before that came about almost on a whim, but it was sitting in my collection, as many things are. You know how this goes. You have something for who knows how long, and then on a whim, it happens. You finally see it. So I finally saw the movie Eat, Pray, Love, which is based on the memoir by Elizabeth Gilbert, and stars, of course, Julia Roberts. I had no idea who all was in this. I was amazed. You got Viola Davis, you got Richard Jenkins, Javier Bardem. There was a couple other pretty big names, but that was a really impressive cast. And it's a pretty good movie.
She annoyed the heck out of me.
Well, yeah, but, it's Julia Roberts. You expect that. But
well, you know that in the real life story, the person that she falls for at the end, she eventually gets bored of him and leaves him too.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me.
So,
I mean, I was sorry to say that, but I've heard really great things about this book. But I have to admit, what he's saying, I don't disagree fully with the character as presented. I kind of got a little bit where she was coming from with some of this, but
She was very flighty, in my opinion.
She's a little bit. But my biggest criticism with the movie, and I feel like a lot of people kind of gave the movie flack, and especially the fans of the book, I got the feeling that things were moving way too fast. I got the feeling that this would have worked much better as like a 4-part miniseries than as a movie. Because, you know, I forgot James Franco, you know, the character Franco plays, there's evidence in the movie that this was apparently a big chunk of time and a big part of her life and very important. But it feels like it's over in 10 minutes. You know, so I felt like it really needed to have been drawn out into a mini-series rather than as one single movie. But as a movie, it was pretty interesting, and I'm glad I finally saw it and finally got it knocked out and not just sitting there bugging me.
I completed a series called Monster Musume.
Oh, I want to see that one.
That is definitely a series that is there.
It is a series.
Essentially, it's a series where you've got all these monster girls. I'm guessing there's no monster boys, even though they hint that there may be some, but I don't see any of them. And they're all these sort of like combination girls, combo, animal, creature thing. And this one guy, these monsters sort of have a second-hand citizen type exchange student type thing, and the exchange rules are, you know, there's no fraternization between, and monsters can't attack humans, humans can't attack monsters, those types of things. And this guy is, and of course you can't leave around without your human like hosting you. You know, you gotta have a minder. I guess sort of like Dark Tourist, you know. So this guy has this this girl who's you know, part snake, and that's the first one. It's like a lamia, and she's of course infatuated with him. Of course. But then you gain others. You gain a harpy. You get a slime girl. You get an arachnid girl, so I guess a drider type creature. And let's see here.
Is there a centaur? One of
yes,
them?
there's a centaur. And she's sort of like the all rules, all law and order type character. And I think that's all of them. I could be missing one, but and there's a lot of boobies. Matter of fact, I think they flash at least 1 or 2 pairs every episode. Yet, oddly enough, though, a lot of these types of series do annoy me at times. This one did not. This one had enough entertaining things going for it on the side that just a constant blatant fan service did not get to me.
Well, as fan service harems go, this is one of the biggest ones of the past several years.
Yeah.
And Sentai's limited edition sets sold out like that. I mean, it just... I didn't even have a chance to get it. It sold so fast.
I just got the regular edition, and that's fine. It was not a bad edition, but a good one. All right.
Well, I probably had a much lower quality show from Sentai. The other series of the past week for me was one that I actually watched the entire thing in about a week's time. I'm trying to get through some of my early, the alphabet early stuff. So I went ahead and watched 11 Eyes. And actually, I started 11 Eyes about halfway through Akame ga Kill. And I finished it off as I was starting Ground Control to Psycho Electric Girl. And I have to say, the show suffered by comparison with both other shows. 11 Eyes is okay. It's decent. Once you get through the first couple episodes and the story really takes off, it does have an interesting story. And they do a decent job with it. And some of the characters are kind of fun. But a lot of it is generic. A lot of it really drags tropes out. But the 2 biggest issues, I think, 3 biggest issues. One, again, the production values were clearly lower. It clearly was not a prestige series. The fan service is ham-handed and at times very, very poorly done. Poorly thought out, I should say. The OVA episode is pure fan service, but it's very tame. It's kind of surprisingly tame for an episode that was pure fan service. And Yuka, the main, waifu character in the series, bitch is crazy. She is crazy. She is psychotically possessive of the main dude. And it's never a good sign when one of the central female characters, you reach a point where you just want them to die and be gone. It's never good when that happens to a central character. She was not there. She snaps. And I know I'm giving minor spoilers there, but it's not like it's a groundbreaking series. If you want to watch it, you want to watch it. I don't think you're missing anything there. But I'm glad I got it knocked out, but it's not one that I'm going to write home about.
Well, this next one I'm going to talk about, then I'm going to turn on the light for upcoming when you're on your next one.
Okay.
I watched something that came in the mail, and because it came a certain way, I'm going to show you. Now take a look at this up here. I'm going to make these pictures just appear, okay? So take a look at this. Yeah, look at that. This is the condition it came in. I had to call Right Stuff. And,
you failed.
And could not get a hold of another slipcover, by the way. But they did send me a replacement case with the cover that was in the case.
That was sent by Right Stuff?
Yep. Right Stuff did that. Well, I don't know if they did it, but the
yeah,
mail
it was
did
probably
that.
the Postal Service. But yeah,
that just looks like people. I've showed it online, and people were like, shouldn't let your dog near. I was like, I don't have a dog. I have cats, and they didn't go near it. That was in the mailbox.
Yeah.
But
they're not that destructive.
But I watched it because, I wanted to make sure. They asked me, so are the discs working? I was like, oh, give me a minute. Because it's a movie, and that's Bayonetta. I've been trying to play the games. I've got the first game. It's going to be back. I'm going to be back to playing it a little bit. And it's about a sexy witch whose clothing is her hair. And it's about this war with the angels and the witches. And she's kind of like a little bit between both. And she goes around, kicks ass, gives fan service, yet nowhere near the fan service that Monster Musume shows. Basically that's the whole of it, is kicking ass and giving fan service. And it's decent. I enjoyed it. I'm sure you've heard of Bayonetta.
Oh yeah. No, I think we covered it on one of our new releases ones, didn't we?
I can't remember.
Okay.
But I'll let you go ahead. I'm going to go and turn on the light.
Okay. Well, that's really it for my viewing, I believe. One other thing I did see that I'm not counting as something I'm really watching, but I saw. My brother's been crashing with us recently, and that's where the Key and Peele came in. But the two of us watched the first few episodes of the new series from Matt Groening and David X. Cohen and some of them. It's called Disenchanted. And it's not earth-shattering. It's better than most of the recent Simpsons stuff, but not quite Futurama level. Really not even the level of classic Simpsons. But it could get better. But, Simpsons covers the present day. Futurama covers the future. Disenchanted is set in a fantastical realm, but it's supposed to be sort of the past. It's sort of a swords and sorcery kind of series, and it's pretty fun. But speaking of blending the old and the new and kind of fun, one that has been sitting on my shelf for ages that I finally got around to reading a couple nights ago is the most excellent comedy and tragical romance of two gentlemen of Lebowski. by Adam Bertocci, where he took the Coen brothers film The Big Lebowski and rewrote it as a lost Shakespearean play. Complete with liner notes and everything. It's like a college edition of a Shakespeare play that really does teach you a lot about the language of the time, but it's interesting. And I've been wanting to read that for a while. I made sure to read it in one sitting as if I was seeing a play or watching the movie. And I'm glad I finally read that one. It was interesting. Yeah.
Well, of course, as you probably saw in the pickups, I obtained some NIS titles. And Persona Trinity Soul is one of them. Well, this was an unbelievable deal. This is extremely hard to find. So I went and I started watching it. And it is a very interesting one. It is a sort of, it follows, it's about 10 years after the third game in the series. And it has a couple of the characters that it shares from the third game. It is, Persona is a series about these teenagers who have the ability to summon these personas, which are sort of alternate them. And then fight each other or whatnot, depending on which game it is. And each one has a different premise. This one has this condition called apathy syndrome, which is sort of where your persona is taken or hurt, and then you kind of just zone off until you just eventually die as an empty husk. And this is happening a lot to people around, and they're trying to find out what. In the meantime, you've got this story about the main character who's coming in with his younger brother to stay with his older brother to try and get back together with the family. Yet the older brother seems to be very distant somehow, very mysterious. And that's about all I'm going to say about the plot, so that if you do see this series, I'm not going to spoil it. But I will say this. It was really interesting at the beginning, but much like The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, it got very strange at the end. But not strange as in, what? Strange. But strange as in, this story is getting convoluted strange. I felt like the story was too much up its own, you know. So I did enjoy it overall as a decent anime, though definitely not my favorite by far. And not sure whether it would have been my pick as a great series to start Aniplex off with. Not Aniplex, sorry, NIS America off with. Though Aniplex does own the rights to Persona, so you might see it from Aniplex in the future.
Okay. Alright, so the last, I'm going to go ahead and finish off mine for the week with a little note on the Great American Read. I am very close to completing my goal. I mentioned that I've started Zadie Smith's, or I don't know if it's Zadie or Zadie, I need to find out, I guess, but White Teeth, and I'm enjoying it so far. White Teeth will be number 10 on my goal of trying to get 10 done this summer. I'm almost there. Numbers 8 and 9 were in the past 2 weeks. I got them done, and they were both books that featured very pointed social commentary. They were both books that were very enjoyable and pretty quick reads, and they were very, 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 very different books. The one I actually read in the middle of the other one because it came across the counter at the library, and I looked at it and I'm like, damn, that's a short book. I'm going to read that. And I read it at lunch. And that was Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's The Little Prince.
Oh.
I finally read that.
Did you read it in the original French?
No. I can't read French.
I read it in the original French.
Well, bully for you. And the other one, which again was very, 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 very different, was Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. Whoa. Which I can kind of see now why you keep saying the threat that we are under.
The threat is real.
Yes.
Do you not see, like, that would be the goal of the current vice president of the band? It's like, That's like
I
the
will
goal.
say this. One thing that I had not expected that I liked is that one of the triggers for the whole thing was environmental catastrophe. I liked that they went in that direction because a lot of people probably wouldn't think to do that. The Handmaid's Tale definitely is a very harrowing book to read. I said it was enjoyable, and it is, but it's also frightening.
Yeah.
It really is, and it's a very well written book. And I was very happy. And now I want to see the show. I wanted to already, but now I really want to see the show.
There are some marked differences about it, and I mean, they're much more racially accepting in the show, where in the book they are not.
No, they are not accepting. They don't really go too much into issues of race in the book.
Well, that's because they send them all away. So there's nothing
Right.
to say about them.
They do get into issues of religion in the book.
Yeah.
They do talk at length about religious callings and that sort of thing. And it just, like I said, it was a hard one to read, but a good one, and I'm glad I did. And like I said, so close to my goal of 10. I love it.
So that's all of your watched,
Pretty much, yeah.
read. Well, I got a number left to go.
Go for
So
it.
I'm going to just run through some of these quicker than others. Of course, Return of the Living Dead Part 3, which is already passed probably by the time you saw this. But Inside Movies Galore, doing a discussion of Return of the Living Dead Part 3. So stop watching this if you haven't seen it. Go watch that, then come back. I'm not going to say a lot because he hasn't seen it yet. And it's just, to me though, out of the three, my least favorite.
Oh.
It's aggravated me.
Aggravated you.
Yeah, don't worry. It's not like it because of it disgusting or anything. It's more, if you've got through the first two, you can easily get through this one. It's just, I don't know.
Tedious.
Yeah, very tedious.
Lovely.
I got a Laurel and Hardy collection, which is a pretty nice collection. It has a couple of things, and I'm going to just run through these pretty quickly because I watched all of them. It's a lot of them. It starts with the very first time Laurel and Hardy were on screen together, which is a short film called The Lucky Dog. And, of course, these people are their icons of comedy, and I'd never seen anything other than social mention of these. So this is really good for me because I can see
I can't
this
swear
on
that
film.
I've seen anything.
So The Lucky Dog was a fun little short about him coming up with and the odd thing is this was a chance pairing. They really didn't get together as a team until later. They were just both hired by the same thing, and they were sort of like ships passing in the night. Whereas one played the main character of the film, this lucky gentleman. The other one played sort of a robber that came in later on. There was another short called Be Big, which is nice. A musical which was very well rated, probably the highest rated on IMDb, called March of the Wooden Soldiers or Babes in Toyland, known by both, which is a very interesting little fantasy fairy tale land piece where they are both together. The Flying Deuces, which is also a fairly well-known one, where they join the Foreign Legion. And it's kind of funny. They joined the Foreign Legion because one of them broke up with a girl and he wants to forget. So, of course, they joined the Foreign Legion, the French Foreign Legion, to forget. And they don't like the fact that they're not being paid enough, so they say, you know what, well, we're handing in our resignation. We're not doing that. But you don't really hand in your resignation like that. And the other thing of note with that one is it was done during World War II, right as the war was breaking out, and about a year before France was invaded by Germany. So that's kind of interesting that they did like a French film right before that invasion. Also, the last one was Utopia, which was the last film that they had together. There's also a This Is Your Life, which was even later, which was 2 years before one of their deaths. So I want to say it's Hardy's death, because he died in 1957. and it was in 55 when they recorded it, which was kind of neat there as well. So you got to see really the last TV appearance of them together. So last movie, last TV appearance, and then first appearance together. But a lot of their stuff was really dark, especially Utopia. Really dark comedies. One of the big ones that me and my wife went to see in the theaters on Saturday, we had sort of a date night. We decided, let's go to the theater and see it. We saw The Black Klansman. Oh. Now that one, I was very happy to see. I think it's got it's Spike Lee, is that right?
Yeah.
And Jordan Peele related together in that.
So was it pretty good?
It was very good. Oh. Unlike a lot of Spike Lee, it didn't hit yourself over the head with a bat until the very end. If you are a Trump supporter, and there are a number of you, I think, that do watch here that are at least a couple, don't watch this film. This film is not for you. You will hate this film.
I kind of want to see it.
And there's a lot of nods to where they're talking about it. It's based on a semi-true story about this black officer who ends up joining the Klan in order to do a sting operation on the Ku Klux Klan as they try and invade a Colorado town. For people who really like David Duke and Donald Trump and things like that, there are a lot of allusions to Make America Great Again. One time they're talking in this scene together about like how, if you are... it's like, well, this guy, David Duke, he's trying to get into the mainstream. He's trying to bring the Klan into the mainstream, so eventually somebody like him, who is overtly racist, will become president. And of course the main guy's like, nothing like that'll ever happen, which is an obvious plug. At the very end, they show a lot of the films, they show sort of a parallel between what's going on to the Charlottesville rallies and what had happened there. Again, very well done, very well acted, very well written. Other than the end part, really Spike Lee's influence was not seen until the end in a lot of areas. But that's just how good the writing is in the film. I do think that this was one of his better films, and I would like to think that it has a chance of getting an Oscar nod, if not an Oscar itself. Though it might be too political, though the Oscars are not afraid of that.
Nope, not at all.
So I would look for that. That's one to look for. And so long as you are not easily offended as somebody like that on that persuasion, you might get to enjoy it.
That's something.
So, very good film. Recommend it to anybody who likes to look at some of these parts of history.
Right, a short walk-on girls made $350,000 in this country.
Oh, not bad considering the short run it's gotten.
Yeah, no.
I did complete Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. I talked about that last time.
Right.
It's sort of Castlevania clone, which is a predecessor to the real Bloodstained game. I really did like that game. It was fun. It was easy enough to beat, but yet had enough challenge to where you could keep challenging it again and again. I hope to return to it sometime, but a great one for on the go. I finished the South Park DLC, which was based off of a lot of those old sleepaway camp horror tropes, where they're going to a camp for the for special ed, and all of the camp counselors are disappearing and they're being murdered. So they're trying to save at least one camp counselor to keep camp open. At the end, you get a new superhero, hero, Mintberry Crunch, which is an interesting character. And overall, it was a very fun DLC. It didn't take a lot of time to beat, which for me means it took a while. And that is all I've got for my reading. So I guess we'll get some news items.
Okay.
We won't spend a ton of time because we're running low on time.
And I don't have too many news items, even though it's 2 weeks. There are only a few I took note of.
All right, go for it.
Okay.
Grab one.
Well, one of them is, this is something that's been floated for a while, but they did announce that Watchmen, the series, has officially been picked up by HBO.
Oh, good.
So, and it's got a pretty impressive cast. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes.
And the author will hate that too.
He probably will. Yes.
One thing in the news that was big about Ninja, who is a streamer. He's most people know him by this point. Big Fortnite streamer. I was about to say Overwatch. That'd probably offend some people. Not that I care because I suck at Fortnite. But he got in trouble because he said he won't stream with girls. He don't want to play with girls. Mainly because he's worried that it'll look bad on his girlfriend, like if she comes on, or he looks like he's coming on, and that they'll make it look like he's trying to romantically woo whoever it is there. And this has offended a lot of people, but in this day and age, it's hard to say. I mean, there is some truth in that. Like, there'd be like that sort of thing, but should you let that stop you from playing with female streamers? Nah, not really.
I go? Okay. On polar opposite ends of the box office, I was just looking at Variety's Box Office Mojo list, which is, I mentioned Night Short Walk On Girl made some money. On polar opposite ends, 2 weeks ago, we saw the debut of the new Kevin Spacey film, Billionaire Boys Club, which featured Taron Egerton and some other folks as well. Film opened in 10 theaters, made $126 opening day. That's pretty bad. And it's not even on the chart for its second week of release, so they may have already pulled it after less than a week of release. I feel really bad for everyone involved with that film. Of course, I can't really feel bad for Mr. Spacey at this point, but
Yeah.
that was a film that clearly just the distributor said, we're going to go ahead and put it out. They probably lost money on the deal, even though they dumped it in August with no fanfare. $126 is not even going to make your basic money back. On the flip end of the scale, Crazy Rich Asians is making bank.
Just goes to show you.
2 weeks in release, it's up to $76.6 million. Made $24.8 million this weekend.
Need to see that one.
I want to see it too. I kind of want, because Michelle Yeoh stars in that and the Meg, I kind of want to go see them as a twofer. I kind of want to do that. And the Meg, by the way, is making bank too. This has actually been a pretty powerful box office this summer.
Yep. You don't need a white male to bring in the money.
Right. I mean, again, I've said before, I cannot freaking believe this is the first time since the Joy Luck Club that there's been an Asian-led Hollywood film. That's absurd. But I'm very happy that it's making so much money. Because maybe that'll change. Maybe.
Well,
but, yeah.
Definitely, I think, is working with Star Wars doing something similar with breaking the barriers.
Yeah.
Just one thought of entertaining news is that YouTube had started pulling like ads for The Nun off because it's one of these that's a real jump scare ad. And you don't realize it's an ad until the last minute, and it's been really scaring the crap out of people, and so much so people are complaining about it. So I just thought it was just funny. You go ahead.
People, jump scares make me jump once in a while.
Imagine you're watching your YouTube video, minding your own business, and saying, what's this? Right in your face.
So anyway, on license and release news, we got a couple quiet announcements this week that are nothing earth-shattering, but one is interesting and one is disappointing. Fireworks is getting an American release on home video.
Right.
Shout Factory to release it in November.
Not surprising.
And Sentai has announced that they're dropping their license to Night Raid 1931.
Yeah.
Which is somewhat disappointing. I've heard it's a good series. I own it. I'll get around to watching it one of these days. But it's still kind of sad to hear that they're dropping it, because who knows if it'll get picked up anytime soon. Yeah.
Well, another release news. Some Like It Hot is getting a Criterion release.
Yes, they announced their November slate. It's Some Like It Hot, and Orson Welles' The Magnificent Ambersons is also on this slate. So, I never did see that. I will have to get that. And Some Like It Hot is worth an upgrade, because that was a good movie. Yeah.
So, got anything else?
My last one, this is the one I had to double check during one of our earlier videos tonight. Michael Jackson's Thriller is no longer the top selling album of all time. It is still certified 33 times platinum. That's freaking insane. 33 million copies sold. It is the top selling studio album of all time, not counting compilations. However, they have certified the Eagles their greatest hits as 38 times platinum.
I own both of them, so.
Yes, 38 million copies sold of the first Eagles album. And the Eagles caught the number 3 spot. Hotel California is certified at 26 million. Which is pretty impressive, especially, I'm guessing this includes download as well.
Yeah.
Like digital purchases.
You know what's weird
But
is
even so,
the greatest hits did not, the original greatest hits one did not have Hotel California on it.
you're right.
Which is weird.
It does have, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it has the Take It Easy and
Yeah,
a couple
yeah,
others, but not Hotel California.
Yeah, Hotel California was the second one. You're right. But the first, they did have Take It Easy and Witchy Woman and Peaceful Easy Feeling and Take It to the Limit.
Or whatever else.
What was that?
Kokomo and...
Kokomo's Beach Boys.
Okay, well, I always mix them up.
And what's even really funny about this, I did not even plan this, but like I said, I did just read that book that was a reworking of The Big Lebowski. And if you've ever seen The Big Lebowski, you will know why it's amusing that that happened the same week as the Eagles getting this. Because the dude was not a fan of the Eagles.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run through the rest of this really quickly so that we can wrap up. Just a couple of things. IGN had a plagiarism issue with a Philip Moosen, who started off, and originally this I wasn't going to do it, but you know he plagiarized an article done by a review from a group called Boomstick Games. So then he does this half-hearted apology. Say, well, yeah, you guys are probably trying to look through my stuff to see if there's anything else there. Well, I dare you to look through through my stuff. And so they did. And they found tons more plagiarism at the same time. Suffice to say, IGN had a lot of apologies and had to fire the man.
Oh yeah, I heard
MoviePass is surpassing 100 million in losses.
Jeez.
And is moving to a 3-movie per month system.
Yeah.
I thought this is what's going to happen. They were like, well, we thought that people were only going to see 3 movies a month. Well, yeah, that ain't going to happen.
They didn't change the fee, did they?
They are charging more for blockbusters or for high-rate ones.
Right.
So you're paying another $5 for one that's like a big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Trump in news, mainly because this is in the Apprentice news. Apparently, he was throwing out an idea which was, thank goodness, shut down. He decided it would be a great idea to do a blacks versus whites episode of The Apprentice. I didn't see what was wrong with that concept. One that you would like is Scarlett Johansson is now considered the highest paid actress.
Well, she has been for a little bit, hasn't she?
I don't know how. Well, at least.
Oh, she definitely is this year with
Yes,
all the
this year is
grosses
definitely.
from particularly Infinity War and because she got a pretty good paycheck for that movie,
Yeah.
I think.
And of course, she'll be playing Rosa Parks in the Rosa Parks document. I'm sorry, but she's taken a couple of parts that are kind of whitewashing parts, and though she did eventually, after opinion got to it, she did eventually turn down playing the transgendered female character in one of the roles that she was trying to play. So I'm kind of glad to see that.
Yeah.
Madonna turned 60.
Did you hear the other Madonna news this week?
Well, that terrible tribute she did
Oh,
that was just
yeah.
it was more about her, sort of like how I guess Trump tribute would be.
Exactly. I don't know what it was. Aretha Franklin apparently got a lot of people to talk about themselves.
You started about how Fox News showed a wrong picture.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that fits under entertainment news. Wasn't it Patti LaBelle?
Yes, Patti LaBelle, and they were feuding at the time, which is how they figured that the pictures came up.
That was so...
But made them look really bad. It's like, well, I guess they all look alike.
This is why I tell you to be
to
very
them.
careful with your death pictures. Oh, man.
Endless 8.
Oh, I heard about that, yeah.
They're doing on 8/28. If you really love that, they're doing an 88-hour stream.
Well, I know that was your very favorite part of that series.
Ruined the second season for me.
The Melancholy Heart y Suzumiya, for those who are not familiar by that term, Endless 8.
If you see that, it's an excellent series.
Mm-hmm.
I can't recommend it more, but that one, it's 8 episodes where they essentially have the same day repeated. So it's essentially the same episode with only minor variations for 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I originally saw this as it was airing, so every week it would be the same, and I was hoping for something different, hoping for it to end. And then by the time it ended, it was already nearly over. The majority of season 2 was the same episode over and over again. And that is a shame because it was a great series, and I would like to see more of it. That would have been, that's 8 episodes that could have been more content. And now you can watch 88 hours of it back to back.
Woo!
So 8/28, take a look for it. Netflix is trying out ads, but don't panic. If you're streaming episodes, what they're doing is trying to get you interested in more of their content. So they'll show like a little preview of something in between. It's only like testing out the waters, but it's not real ads. It's just trying to say, hey, you like this? Look at this. It's something slightly different, but hey, check this out too in between episodes. You cannot skip it though, so
We'll just skip it.
Ben Affleck is having to check into rehab again.
Oh my.
Alcoholism.
Wow.
Really bad alcoholism. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, good luck to him. I definitely hope that's not an easy thing to deal with.
Big Bang Theory is coming to an end. Parsons, I believe it is, says, or Sheldon, I think.
Well, Jim Parsons,
yes,
yeah.
basically said, nope, don't want to do it anymore, and the series can't carry on without Sheldon, so...
And fan nerd rage is getting... I've heard there's some nasty commentary going on about that.
Well, I'm glad to see it finally wrap up. Let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10, so I just need to click 2 more. Season 11 just came out not too long ago, so... I'll be glad to go ahead and get it. I think it's gone on. It's served its purpose.
Yeah, I mean, we have a tendency in this country to drag shows on well past their sell-by date.
Yeah.
So I think this is one. It's had a good run. It doesn't need to go on forever.
Tim Conway, for those of you who don't know, has been diagnosed with dementia.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yep, that's a fairly recent news.
Yeah.
As we go down, it gets more recent. I started this 2 weeks ago. And of course, Danny Boyle has dropped the Bond film.
Yeah.
The next Bond film is not to date until 2020. The reason for this is there was a dispute about killing off Bond. the concept was doing it like a Doctor Who, and then transitioning that way. Bond could transition to like maybe a female or a black character or something like that. Personally, I think that it's fine. You kill off Daniel Craig's Bond and you treat it like the Woody Allen Bond did. Make Bond a title, not a man. And you're already skipping some of the novel stuff anyway. Why not?
Some.
Yeah, whatever.
I think that it's
do
an
it that way.
if you want to do it that way, that's an do it as a legacy character.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to do it. Yeah, I could see that.
So that way you can do it. You could do a transgendered black Asian Bond if you wanted to. But again, if you do that though, if you cast Bond like that, be sure to cast somebody who's really good.
Yeah.
You want to get good acting. You don't want to do it just because you want to. You don't want to do, what's the word, pandering.
Right.
Because that's the fine line. And I think that's where Ghostbusters really didn't do well, is I felt like they were pandering. And instead of actually trying to just make an excellent film. Which, by the way, there is going to be a Ghostbusters, a sequel.
Oh, okay.
Feig has said he's doing a sequel now. So it shouldn't be marred as much as the first one because people now know what to expect.
Right.
But still, I just don't know. Then, of course, a new interracial... Speaking of possible pandering, a new interracial Bewitched is coming to TV.
Oh, it's a TV series.
That's what I think it's supposed to be.
Huh.
So, I'm curious. It could be good.
Yeah. From what I hear, the bar that the Will Ferrell Nicole Kidman movie set shouldn't be too hard to clear.
That wasn't... Yeah, that's not exactly a high bar. All right, so the last part. And I thought to myself, I debated. Should I do this or should I save it to next week? And then I thought, I'm just going to drag next week longer. So, without further ado, I'm going to do the Silent Hill recap.
Okay.
So, Silent Hill 1. Cue the music. Silent Hill stars Harry Mason. He is a man who is driving through the country. He is an author of possible horror novels, aka Stephen King, who always puts authors in his as main characters, it seems. And they're driving to this vacation resort of Silent Hill when something happens, and they see a girl crossing in front of them on the street. They swerve, they crash. Harry wakes up, and he sees all of this mist and snow falling, yet it's July. His daughter is missing, so he races out after his daughter. Unfortunately, as he races through the alleys chasing his daughter, who's strangely running away, in the middle of the fog in this strange deserted town, things get darker and darker as he comes upon strange things like wheelchairs abandoned and occasional dead body. Slightly strange things. Yet, he is ambushed and stabbed to death by knife-wielding monster children. Now, for the rest of this, if any of you haven't played Silent Hill and you for some reason want to play Silent Hill 1, spoilers are incoming. But it's at the end of this, and I do this so that you can just say, okay, well, I don't want to spoil it. But this game is ancient now. Came out around 99, 98. I'd like to think you've had a chance to play it by now.
And you considering that ancient?
It is ancient.
Yeah,
There
I
are
know,
people
we're
that
old.
have been born that year who are 20 now.
I know. Make me feel old.
So, Harry wakes up from his death in a diner with Sybil, a police officer, who had recklessly passed her own motorcycle as they were driving through the mountain passes. She doesn't know what the heck's going on with this town, but she's going to try and contact the police. She gives Harry her gun. I'm playing it on easy, so of course ammunition is everywhere. As you would expect.
Just walk around and pick up shells on the ground.
Exactly.
Pick a nice
rocket.
Like
Like you've got like boxes of bullets just sitting on park benches, stuff like that. So Harry backtracks to the alleyway where he originally was basically killed by a bunch of toddlers, and meanwhile being attacked by these strange pterodactyl men and monstrous dogs. He finds out that there's a coloring book, or ancient drawing book that she had, that tells him to go to the school. Harry does a lot of puzzle solving, having to go to various places, collect keys to pass through a house, because Silent Hill has a bunch of gaping chasms in the road called Chasm Ex Machina. These chasms do steer him in the correct linear direction towards the school. Of course, night falls as he goes into the school, and as he explores, the school becomes a strange, twisted nightmare realm, similar to the one where he was killed by the toddlers. Of course, he has to fight more knife-wielding toddlers, as well as other creepy monsters. He does battle with a dragon that is probably the most nerve-wracking battle in the entire game, because it can one-hit kill you. After taking out the dragon, Harry hears a bell from a church. He travels to the Balkan church and meets a old woman called Dahlia Gillespie. She gives him this strange item called the Flauros and a key, saying it will help him ward away evil because a demon is taking over this town. Go figure. Harry then crosses over to the hospital. After fighting many demonic doctors and nurses, he comes upon a strange room filled with lots of blood-stained sheets and beds, and one particular hidden room underneath the hospital. In that room, he finds a key which unlocks the door where a nurse is hiding. The nurse says she doesn't know what happened. She just woke up and she was in this nightmare room. He also meets a doctor who is trying to find his way out of the town. This is Dr. Kaufman, a mysterious figure. Well, after finishing the hospital, Harry finds his way through an antique shop and the mall, where he fights a giant caterpillar. Yes. And gets again together with the cop, who we find has not been able to transition fully to the nightmare world like he can. And then finds his way back to the hospital yet again, where the caterpillar turns into a giant devil moth. I know, it doesn't sound that scary.
Is it Mothra?
But after that whole deal, he finds out that he needs to travel to the actual section, the tourist section, which is on the lake. Now this is where the biggest optional part of the series comes, where you collect the various items, one of which you collect in the hospital, by the way, which is this strange red liquid. You collect it in a plastic bottle. The next part is when you go to the lake and you track down these clues, which you find another giant vial of this mysterious red stuff. Police reports talk about drugs being dealt in town with a particular weird flower that had been growing nearby. Dr. Kaufman shows up and takes that, as it seems like he's involved in this drug trade. You go through the sewers after discovering that this strange ghost named Melissa has been marking the town to fall into eternal darkness if she completes all of these signs. After discovering that the second to last sign was done at the lighthouse, he and Sybil split up, and where she goes to the amusement park, he goes to the lighthouse. So Harry tracks through the sewers to the amusement park where he finds Sybil has been taken over by a demonic force. But I got that red liquid in the plastic bottle. You throw it at her, and you free her of the demonic influence. You also use the flower rose to stop Alyssa. But then you find out it was all a trick by Dahlia Gillespie to capture Alyssa, so that she can use her powers as her own in order to gain birth of a dark god angel demon thing.
Okay.
And thus is where I am now, poised to enter the final area called Nowhere. Well, that catches you up, and the rest will be done a little bit less hurriedly as we go by, as we have more time. But that ends our podcast for today. We hope to see you next week. We hope to try and do a top 15 list if we can put it all together. I believe it's one that you want to do as a tribute to Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, I'm thinking it would be really cool to do a list of 15 times where the cover song was better than the original. It would be a lot of fun.
So if we get that together, that'll be good. But otherwise, I hope you watch the Tuesday showing of Movies Galore, and we hope to do a couple other projects in the meantime. So, we shall see you on the next one.
Goodbye.